Welcome to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. In each episode, we're going to bring you insightful interviews and discussions with top restoration industry leaders. We're also going to delve into their business, the strategies that made them successful, and most importantly, the valuable lessons they've learned along the way. I'm your host, Clinton James. I'm also the Chief Marketing Officer at Water Restoration Market. We're a digital marketing agency dedicated to helping restoration companies nationwide secure more high-value water jobs. Now, this show, it aims to provide you with the knowledge and tools you need to excel in the restoration industry. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. And welcome, folks, back to another episode of the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. I am your host, Clinton James, and today I'm joined. It's funny, have you ever gone to an event and you see, like, I don't know if you guys go to the industry events for the restoration industry. You go, you see the speakers, you see what they're going to be talking about. And I remember going to an event at Core earlier this year, and one of the speakers' talking points, like the title of what they were going to talk about, was called "Your Team Sucks and It's All Your Fault." And that stood out, right? Compared to all of the other subject matters there. Your team sucks and it's all your fault. So I had to listen. And more importantly, I had to invite the speaker onto the podcast to talk a little bit about leadership in the restoration industry. So I want to thank today's guest, Claire Carreras. Am I saying the last name correctly, Claire?
A plus, A
Awesome.
plus.
Claire, I want to thank you for jumping on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Cliff, for having me on. Yeah, I'm great. Having a great day. Can't complain.
Good. Glad to hear that. Now, I have run into Claire at a couple different industry events. But again, that talking point for the discussion that you had at Core, that really jumps out to me. But before we dive into that, right, before we make the audience of restoration company business owners feel bad about themselves and the way they're managing their team, I'm just kidding. That's not what we're going to do today. I want to talk a little about you and your journey into restoration, because that was not the game plan for you in terms of a career. Tell the audience, Claire, how you got into restoration.
Oh man, I mean, it just kind of evolved out of tragedy, really. It's so funny, I think about this all the time. If I would have told myself, 10 years ago that this is where I was going to be at this time in my life, I would have thought you were insane, because that was so not the trajectory that I was on. I mean, I've jumped around from industry to industry quite a bit, but there's always been an element of creativity, performance, fashion, music, very much like the arts and that world, always within like a kind of a management structure capacity, but still more on the creative side. And yeah, one thing happened and another thing happened, and then I desperately needed a job, and the only person who would take a chance on me at that time was an owner of a Paul Davis here in Texas.
Okay.
And
all right.
That's just how it all happened. Yeah.
So working for a Paul Davis franchise in Texas was your first segue into restoration. So when you first started working at that Paul Davis franchise, what was your role? What were you doing?
I was just trying to make it look like I knew what I was doing, because I had never heard the word mitigation before. Okay. I did not know what a Paul Davis was. I had never had a job in Texas before. In fact, I had been technically unemployed for almost a year and a half, almost 2 years at that point. So, just kind of thrown into the fire and expected to figure it out. My title when I first started there, I think, was something like admin reception. Like, they didn't even know, you know what I mean? They just needed someone to come and help them, and my resume stood out somehow enough to get my foot in the door there. But 3 months in, I was running a division, and I was picking up pieces and turning things around. And then I got into contents, which was a whole nother world that, thank goodness I did, because that niche for me has been tremendous. But yeah, sorry, I'm going a million miles an hour.
No, that's really good insight. But let's let the audience kind of peel back the curtain a little bit. So prior to working for Paul Davis, you had a career in music and artists and kind of managing those kind of personalities. So when when you started working with folks in a restoration business, let's say your first 30, 60, 90 days, what did you notice about the industry that felt very different from everywhere else that you've worked?
I mean, different or low-key the same, because I don't know if you've ever managed musicians, but there is a lot of ego there. There's a lot of pride. There is a lot of, the oddball out, the underdog. I have a tough job and I'm the greatest at it. I mean, there's a lot of personality there, and I
Okay.
feel like that really translates to
Wait,
emergency
wait,
pros.
are you trying to tell me that you think that project managers and insurance adjusters and even water techs, they've got a big ego?
I mean, maybe I'm thinking it goes around, but it's a lot to manage. It's a lot of person.
Okay.
It's a lot of person.
All right, so you took the job, you started in an administrative role. Within a few months, you
Mhm,
were moved into content. So talk a little bit about your time
mhm.
managing the contents department there.
Yeah, well, actually, I started in water mitigation, and then I kind of
Okay.
took content on in addition. But yeah, well, first of all, I discovered that they had a contents division and kind of got to see a little bit about how that operated and how it was working. And I was like, ooh, there's a lot of room for improvement here in terms of the customer experience side and how we're handling all the items to, basically do, not want to say a better job, but more efficient, more profitable, all that good stuff. So I just kind of jumped in and started figuring it out and did a lot of research and put some systems together and kind of refined them and got the people organized in a way that made a lot more sense and looked at, okay, what does the customer journey look like here? How do we start? How do we introduce ourselves? What does the whole pack out experience feel like for both our guys and for the homeowners? How do we estimate for this in a way that we can actually back it up and get numbers through? And then how do we bring everything back? And what state is everything coming back
Right.
in? And once I had that all kind of fleshed out, um, yeah, it was great. And I really loved running those jobs. I love managing that division. And that contents experience that I gained there really helped me in the rest of my journey as I kind of continue to meander through emergency services.
All right. So Paul Davis was not your last stop, right?
No,
So you went from Paul Davis to another well-known restoration company there in the Austin area, I believe.
actually, technically, I think it was more north, like Pflugerville, Georgeville, Round
Okay.
Rock. But,
So
but yeah,
tell us about the next stop.
next stop for me was Servpro.
Okay.
So again, very interesting. It's two franchises for me. Prior to moving to Texas and getting into this, I had not worked for a franchise period.
Okay.
Actually, I had this record of only independent companies for some reason. But yeah, so I did Servpro for a little bit. Um, at that time in my career, I kind of thought, well, should I be getting out of this industry? Like, is this just kind of where I landed out of necessity and I kind of did my thing here and I need to, go explore something else or get out of it or get back into something creative. I don't know. I still hadn't figured out my adventure, how it was all going to play out. So I ultimately left there to go do something a little bit different, still within home services, but it was actually a pool cleaning and repair business,
Okay.
which I thought, all right, okay, good, cool. I'm out of restoration. Look at me. I'm going to try my hand in this little world here. It's a little bit more exciting. It's cool. They're pretty. It's fun. It's outdoors. And of course, it was none of those things. Pool company is a lot to chew on. And again, it's a lot of people. It's a lot of homeowner experience. It's people. It always comes back down to managing people.
Well, we're going to talk about people and your experience managing people and leadership styles and how to get the most out of your people. But that Servpro was not even the last stop on your restoration voyage. So
No, that's what
what was the next step?
it just keeps pulling me back
No?
in somehow. So I did the pool cleaning and repair business for a little while. I actually did, I think, really quite a good job with that. I was able to, put it back together nicely. When I first came on, it was in disarray. It was kind of falling apart. It hadn't had, proper long-term management in place for a little while, so it
Okay.
had started to slip a bit. So I tightened everything up, tidied things, got the team in order, flushed it out, got the books looking a lot better. We made it attractive enough that we actually were able to package it up and sell it.
Like,
Um, And then I realized, well, geez, I just worked myself right out of a job. So,
And that's when Restoration
so
called you back in.
that's right. That's when it was
Okay.
like, oh, hey, you remember me over here? And I got an opportunity to actually launch a contents division within an existing restoration company. And they wanted to also scale and kind of, do what I had done with the pool business. They were like, hey, can you do that over here? And I said, yeah, I think I can. So yeah, next stop.
All right. So part of that scaling is going in, meeting the people, figuring out the right way to manage the people, creating SOPs so that everybody knows what's expected on every single job. How important do you think everyone following the same playbook, everyone following the same playbook on jobs is important to not only being able to scale a successful restoration company, but also being able to effectively manage people because they know what the expectations are?
I mean, it's crucial. I mean, especially in this industry, in mitigation, you have to. There's so many stakeholders involved, right? It's one of the most intense industries that I've ever worked in because there are so many people and groups and entities involved in a claim, right?
Mhm.
You've got your people, you've got subcontractors, you've got insurance carriers, you've got adjusters, you've got estimators, you've got all these third party groups that want to join the party and get involved some way or another.
Everybody loves a TPA.
Yeah, and then you've got the homeowners, and you've got their family, and the people who are in their ear, and probably it's endless, right? So it's very chaotic, and I don't even remember where I was going with this.
No,
I'm
no.
caught up on how crazy it all was.
Well, it is crazy, but I think in chaos comes an opportunity for somebody like yourself to step into a restoration company and provide some structure, right?
That's right. That's
So
right.
talk a little bit about some of the best
Yeah.
practices when you go into a new restoration company and you're trying to establish those SOPs and what that looks like, especially creating a contents division in a restoration company that didn't already have one.
Gotcha. Okay, well, I kind of have a three-prong method anytime I come in somewhere new and, this is the game plan. So first I'll look at, okay, who do we have? Who are our human assets, right? What people do we have working for us right now, and what can they do? And what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses? And who's happy, who's not? You kind of look at the people and the culture first.
Okay.
And then once you've got that kind of chewed on, you got that all figured out, then you look at, okay, what exists in terms of processes? What is the flow? How are jobs getting done currently? Or if they're not getting done at all, how do you think that you would do it if you were going to start it? Like, what's your expectation of how this is going to work? And I would sit with the owner or GM or whoever is at the top and just talk to them about, okay, what's working for you right now? What's not working? What would you change if you had the time? How do you foresee this working? What hasn't worked for you in the past? And you get a really good idea of what their expectations is, but not only that, where their maybe limitations are, because you can't just come into a business and be like, all right, slosh the whole thing. I'm going to change everything. Like, nobody would like you, first of all. And a lot of the times, nobody's really ready to make such a massive sweep. You have to make it comfortable for everybody. It's a long-term game. So I find out kind of what systems do I have to work within comfortably that would be comfortable for them, comfortable for me, and how do I make the best use of what's already in place?
Okay.
And then from there, I kind of look at all those three things and be like, okay, phase one, here's what we're going to do. We might have to move a few people around. We might have to invest in some just general training or some kind of bring it back to the basic stuff, right? Then we have, okay, here's the existing systems. We're going to just polish off what's here and see who can succeed with that.
Okay.
Now, the people who fall outside of that bucket, then we have other things we need to start to think about.
Understood.
The people who fit in there, it's like, okay, great. All right, no problem. You can do this well. Then comes phase two, which is, all right, now we're going to start adding and developing these processes out together as a team. So it's not just, surprise, here's the new way we do things here.
Yeah.
Like it or leave it. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't really work, especially when you have, strong, proud individuals who are passionate about what they do. And then phase three is kind of getting it to a place where it's routine. Everything's somewhat automated. People understand the expectations. They're executing them to at least a 90-degree efficiency every time consistently. And then my next move is usually to replace myself or put somebody, kind of up enough so that at some point I can hopefully float away and go to Jamaica.
All right. Well, that's hopefully that's not all of the restoration companies owners' idea is to float away from their business. But I like what you hit there, right? So it's a three-prong approach. The first is people, right? Looking to make sure that you've got the right people in the right seats. The second is evaluation of their processes, right? What's working, what's not working, what's the desired outcome? How do we set up a plan to fix it, right? And then the third is execution. So execution is, hey, we have this roadmap, we have these SOPs, everybody needs to be following them. Those that can get in line and follow these processes and be successful, they're great members of the team. Those that can't, we might need to manage them out of the business, right? So I like that. I like that three-prong approach. But that third part, the execution, that's really where it's important for leaders to come in and do a good job managing. So I want to segue into the talk that you gave at the core event. First of all, how did that come to be? How did you end up on that stage having that conversation in front of a bunch of restoration owners, telling them that their team sucks and it's all their fault?
I don't know, man. I'm surprised anybody showed up. I'm surprised they let me submit that speech and that title, and nobody was like, Claire, I don't know. I think you should change that.
Business owners need to be challenged.
Yeah. No, it was a great conversation. I was really nervous. I'm not gonna lie. I have not done a lot of, public speaking like that, but yeah, I had a great time with it. I hope people got some good nuggets out of it, and yeah.
All right, so for our audience members that were not in the room for the core event, kind of give us the Reader's Digest version. What do you mean when you say your team sucks and it's all your fault?
Oh boy. I mean, the chat GPT summary would be something to the effect of, your problems within the people in your business are almost always going to be in some way your fault. I mean, that's as blank as I can put it. Something that you either are or aren't doing, or aren't paying attention to, or are or aren't saying, or what have you, has a trickle down effect into your people. No matter how high up the ladder you are, or how much you feel like you don't affect the people on the ground level, you do. And in fact, the entire tone of your business, your company, or even just the team you manage, is a reflection of you and what you're putting into it.
I like that. I constantly, I have an agency. We have 25 plus team members scattered through across the world, and I have conversations with other leaders, and they talk about how they're not happy with the performance of team members, right? And I guess it's in hearing the way you phrase that, everything that gets done or that doesn't get done is a reflection of me as a leader, right? I hired the wrong people. I kept the wrong people around too long. I set the wrong expectation for what the roles are. I didn't clearly define what they should be doing on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And just as importantly, I have not held them accountable, because if I had held them accountable, they would be either doing the work or they'd have been managed out, and I'd have the right person in that seat doing the work there. Do you find in the different restoration businesses that you worked in, do you find it's better for folks to hire like green, lesser experienced people and train them on the way that that business wants to operate? Or should they go out and find people that have experience, that maybe have their own ways of thinking about how you should run a contents department or how you should run a mitigation department? What do you think makes the most sense for most restoration business owners?
I love this question, because you know what? It totally depends. It really depends on, again, what does your existing team look like? What are those personalities within there? What do they need in terms of another person that would work best for that unique situation? For some people, it might actually be like, hey, with the systems that we have here and the people that you have here, this is the type of person that's going to be the best benefit to this team. Or if you're trying to grow it in a certain direction, you say, okay, well, this is what you have. This is what's missing. If we're going to grow this, we need to add this type of person. It might be a green person, which has a lot of benefits when you bring in somebody green, because you can just get them all fresh and, tidy them up exactly the way you like it. Or it might be that, hey, we need somebody who has a certain amount of experience, who has a certain amount of leadership or what have you, who can come in and kind of inject some of that into the team. And that can be great too, because now they're coming with tools and experience and other systems and processes that are going to help you get there faster. But you have to be careful, because it's not always one or the other. It really depends on what you're working with.
Now, you've made a number of hires, right, across all of these different restoration companies. Can you give me some
Mhm.
examples of somebody that you hired that maybe didn't have the experience, but came in, absolute rock star, took to the operation and really excelled? And then let's do the flip side. I'm sure everybody
Okay.
makes everybody makes a bad hire, right? So tell me about the
Oh, I've had some.
qualified
Thank
person
you.
that you hired that you thought was going to be a rock star and completely flamed out. Now let's not name names because we want to protect the
Of course.
innocent or the guilty, but let's talk through
Right.
both scenarios, right? So who did you hire that was maybe didn't have the experience in restoration, but they actually turned out to be a huge rock star for that business?
Okay. Yes, I have a great example. We were hiring for a mitigation technician. We
Okay.
were kind of thinking of, maybe it's a helper, or maybe it's, somebody that we're bringing in green and kind of moving them up. We kind of had that idea in mind. So, we did the normal thing. You put the ads out, you do some interviews, and a resume came across my desk, and it was from a young lady. And the resume, honestly, it didn't have anything crazy on it that really jumped out at me. I could see that there was some, mechanical inclination there, a little bit of, construct. I'm like, okay, she's capable with her hands. She
Sure.
knows some tools. Could be something. And I interviewed her remotely first to kind of just get a gauge. And she was really young. Actually, she was a lot younger than she presented on paper. So that was the first little shocker. Um, and she lived quite far. There were a lot of things that I was like, ooh, I'm not sure. But she really, really wanted a job where she could be in the field and she could, throw her weight around and use tools and grow. And she wanted somewhere that had a ladder, and she wanted to be somebody. And she
Okay.
wanted somebody to give her a shot. And obviously I really resonated with that because I was that person once. And so I thought, what the heck, let's give this girl a go. And I think half of the people on the mitigation team, when she showed up for her first day, everyone just did the big eye roll, like, what are you doing with this little tiny girl who, looks really young and has no experience. And they're all thinking, Claire, you're crazy. Like, what is this? And let me tell you something. That girl has become one of the best water technicians I have ever seen.
I
She
love that.
just, she had the head for it. Her documentation is always perfect. She's so presentable with the homeowner. She cleans up after herself. She's ready to rock every morning, every day, never complains, always a smile on her face. And she might be tiny, but she is mighty. I've seen her pull uppers down by herself. Like, she is not joking around. She can do the demo, she can run the guys. And she was also bilingual. She was the full package.
I
But
like that.
I mean, that was just like a hit out of the park.
I love that. I
She
love
was
that.
fantastic.
All right,
Yeah.
so you made a really good hire in that young lady. But I'm sure you've looked at somebody's resume, been blown away by their experience, and you made that hire, and 60 days later, maybe even less than that, you realized, uh-oh, I made a mistake. So do you have a scenario like that you can share with the audience?
I've had so many scenarios like that. It's actually a part of my talk that you were referencing.
All
We
right,
call
give it
them
to us.
shinies. All right. So, like you said, presents great on paper. Everything was there. Met him in person, interviewed fantastically. Really just seemed like, oh my goodness, this person's got the background, they've got the personality, they're well dressed, well spoken. Everything looks like it's coming together. Well, literally, like the first day of work, that person showed up looking so hungover and tired and not smelling right. And it was like that fast of like, oh no. And I'm thinking, okay, there was a period of time between his interview and his time. Maybe he went out and had one last hurrah before he buckles down. Okay, like I'm willing to give you a few shots. But it just got progressively worse. Like,
Oh,
over the course of the first week, it was just one little red flag after another. And, I saw liberties being taken. I was like, really? Like, in your first week, you're going to roll in late and then just kind of dance out the door at 3. And yeah, all the bad stuff. And everyone says it. Everyone knows it. When you see that, if there's no hope, you just got to call it a day and
oh, yeah.
start.
I think if a new hire displays those kind of red flags day one and in their first week, you should probably rip the Band-Aid off and just move on to the next hire. All right, Claire, really impactful talk at core. Again, your team sucks and it's all your fault. If a listener is driving around thinking, man, I'm probably part of the problem with my team, but I don't even know where to start. Are there like 2 or 3 things that you could tell them that they should change in the next 30 days that will really impact them, their team, and the leadership style they have?
Yeah. So first 30 days, I'd say really where you want to start always is with who you have. Look at your people. If you don't really know your people, or if you haven't spent a lot of time with your people lately, spend some time there. Get to know who these people are, what motivates them, what are their goals in life, what are the struggles that they're having personally and professionally. All that stuff. Understand who they are and what they want, and also why they're there. That's a big one. If
Hmm.
it's somebody that you've had for a ton of time, several years, do you know why? Do you know why you've been able to retain that person for that long? Or do
I
you
love
just have
that.
an assumption? Maybe get to know why. If you have somebody new who's, still showing up, sunshine and rainbows and hasn't had a bad day yet, like look at that a little deeper. Why is this person having this experience where someone else might not? Get to know who your people are, what personality, I guess, groups they fall into, and get a sense for if this is somebody that I can move up, move to the side, or if this is somebody I need to think about moving out.
I like that. I like that. All right, so we're gonna quit telling our audience that they suck or that their team sucks and it's all their fault. And I want to transition, like you've done, to the next stage of your career. Because last event that I saw you at was the One Tom Plummer National Pink Plunger Expo. I've gotten better at saying that, by the way.
Yeah, that
Um,
flowed nice.
there you go. So you have decided to step away, not completely from the restoration industry, but to an adjunct industry, and you went out on a
Hmm.
limb and purchased a emergency plumbing franchise, right? So how long has that been up and running? Because I know you've had the franchise for a little bit, but obviously it takes some time to get up and running. How long
Yeah.
has your franchise been up and running at this point?
So we've been officially open for service for 4 months.
Love that.
Yeah,
Love that. And you
four
just
months.
told me had your best month in October, so congratulations on
Yeah,
that.
thank
Um,
you.
all right, so let's talk about these leadership things, right? So you were a leader at some of these companies, but you weren't the owner. And now that you're
That's
the
right. Yeah.
owner, how does that leadership mindset change for you, right? Is it still about looking at the people, looking at the process, and looking at how they execute? Or is there anything that you need to do different from a leadership standpoint now that it's your name on the checks, right? You are the owner, you are
Mm.
the last stop at making decisions for that business.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question again. Honestly, I'm still navigating that, still trying to find the way to switch the hat around, so to speak. I think it definitely still begins with your people. I mean, that was literally step one of getting this business off the ground. Was okay. Who am I doing this with? Who are my people? How is this all going to come together? It always has to start with the people. I think the shift for me is after you've got the people and you've got the systems and you've got it running and going. It's time to get out of the day to day. It's
Okay.
time to stop being an operations manager and put on the owner hat, and then focus on how to take the entire business as a whole and keep pushing it forward instead of being in there, working on it
Okay.
on the inside.
The
That
doors have
if
been
that makes sense.
open for 4 months. Are you still knee deep in the day-to-day operations, or have you already started to build out systems and put the right people in place so that you could put that owner hat on full time and focus on growing the business at a different level?
Yes, yes, that was my goal was basically to do that as quickly as possible so that I, can kind of step back in an owner's capacity and focus on moving the whole vehicle forward instead of being in the day. I was very acutely aware that I didn't want to buy myself another job. I do want to build an organization that can function on its own at some point. So I'd say I've got quite a few toes out. I've been kind of testing to see, how far out the door I can step and have everything still run. There's a lot of fine tuning still to do. Obviously, it's 4 months in, and we're seeing now a peak of business just with the time of year, and really I guess stress testing all of the systems that we have built so far. to see, if there are any cracks, if there's anything that needs to change, and how to kind of keep managing the flow as it increases. So work in progress,
All
but
right.
we're getting.
One Tom Plumber in Austin, Texas. Now, I had a chance, we're not going to turn this into a One Tom Plumber commercial, but I had a chance to meet a bunch of the franchisees in Clearwater, Florida a few months ago. Definitely a different experience being around those franchisees than I think some of the other ones in
All
home
right.
services or restoration or plumbing. Tell me a little about your experience owning a One Tom Plumber franchise. What's that been like for you in terms of the community, the support, working with the franchisor, working with Cameron, working with the entire team over there?
Oh, geez. I mean, I don't really have too much I can report there other than that it's been great. I mean, I I love the support that I get. I love that there's so many other owners and how active they are in our community in terms of, if I need to pick up a phone and just call somebody and say, hey, today sucked. Did your day suck? I don't know. Like, let's just talk about it for a second. Like, that's really nice to have. It's nice to have a support system. It's nice to have people who have already been where you are in the business and have that mentorship. It's a great brand. I mean, the whole thing works fantastically. It's been also really nice having a system that I can see works and is vetted and is proven, and being able to take that and just kind of expand upon it, as opposed to what my whole career seems to have been is, coming in and having to undo things and fix things or build things from scratch.
Sure.
So I've loved that part of it so far,
All
for
right.
sure.
Awesome. So from working at a Paul Davis to working at a Servpro, taking a little dip out of the restoration industry, going to work in pool cleaning and repairs, back to another restoration company, and now in emergency plumbing. What's next for you, Claire? You got to dip your toe back into the restoration pool, or what are you thinking?
Oh, no, no, no. If I do this correctly, my friend, I will eventually be in Jamaica on that beach. That's
All
the
right.
next stop. That's all I want to think about.
All right. Well, Claire, we appreciate you giving the audience some time. Guys, if you like what you heard from Claire, remember, take a look in the mirror. Understand that if your team sucks, or let's not say sucks, let's say if your team is struggling, it just might be all your fault. And you need to do a little self assessment, do a little business assessment, and make the changes necessary. Because if you're feeling that way, chances are your team members are feeling that way. And it's not going to course correct itself until you take a look in the mirror and take some accountability for everything. So, Claire, I want to thank you for your time. Looking forward to seeing you at the next industry event, I'm sure, because you're everywhere. To the audience, again, thank you guys for listening. If you like what you heard, make sure you check back with us next week, where we'll have more interviews with more industry experts and professionals and folks like Claire that have a great message for restoration business owners. And make sure you go follow us on social, like us, subscribe. And if you're so inclined and you enjoyed the conversation today about leadership, please leave us a 5-star review. Claire, any last words, parting words for the audience today?
Just wake up every morning and make sure that you still love it. Because if you don't, I bet all the people around you probably don't either.
Ooh, that's impactful. All right, Claire, thanks again. And thank you all for listening to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Restoration Pros Unplugged podcast. If you like what you heard today, be sure to subscribe, share, and also leave us a 5-star review. We'll be back with more interviews and discussions with restoration industry leaders really soon. In the meantime, if you're a restoration company looking to add more high-value water jobs, you can reach me and my team at waterrestorationmarketing.net. Again, that's waterrestorationmarketing.net. I look forward to hearing from you soon.